So this shriRam exploit 17 for shriRam. God Nagas, Tindras, and the guardians of the eight quarters flocked to Chitrakuta on that occasion. Sri Rama made obeisance to them all, and the gods were glad to obtain the reward of their eyes. Raining flowers, the heavenly host exclaimed, Lord, we feel secure today. With great supplications, they described their terrible woes and returned joyfully to their several abodes. Hermits streamed in as they heard the news that Sri Rama, the writer of the Raghu, had taken up his abode at Chitrakuta. The moon of the solar rays fell protest when he saw the holy company coming with cheerful countenance. The hermit praised Sri Rama, the chief of Raghu line, to their bosom and invoked their blessings on him, just in order to see them come true. As they gazed on the beauty of Sita, Lakshmana, Sumitra's son, and Rama, they accounted all their spiritual practice fully rewarded. After paying them due honors, the Lord dismissed the holy throng and they practices yoga. The Lord dismissed the holy throng. After paying them the honors, the Lord dismissed the holy throng. Holy throng. Holy throng. Throng means what do you mean by throng? Holy throng. And they practice throng, a large densely packed crowd of people or animals. A large densely packed crowd or a fill or present in the place crowd of a crowd fill a present a place or area crowd holy throne as they practice yoga contemplation, yoga contemplation, yoga contemplation, yoga contemplation, yoga contemplation means the action of looking thoughtfully at someone for a long time is called the action of looking thoughtfully at something for a long time is called the contemplation. The action of looking thoughtfully at something for a long time is called the contemplation. The action of looking thoughtfully at something for a long time is called the contemplation. The action of looking thoughtfully at something for a long time is called the contemplation. The action of looking thoughtfully at something for a long time is called the contemplation. Deep reflective thoughts is called the contemplation. Deep reflective thought is called the contemplation. Deep reflective thought is called the contemplation. Deep reflective thoughts is called the contemplation. The state of being considered or planned is called the contemplation. The yoga contemplation, japa, muttering of the prayers and studies and perform sacrifice unmolested in their own retreat. Unmolested. Unmolested means unmolested in their own retreat. Unmolested means not preserved or molested. Left in peace. Left in peace called the unmolested. Not pestered or molested. Left in peace called the unmolested in their own retreat. Unmolested in their own retreat. Retreat. Retreat means retreat. When the Kolas and the Bhilas got this news, they felt as delighted as through the nine heavenly treasures of the Kubera had found their way to their own house. With cups of leaves full of bulbs, fruits, and food, they sailed forth as a pauper to gather gold as spoils. Such of them as had already seen the two brothers were cautioned about them by others who proceeded along the same road, describing and hearing the Sri Rama's beauty. They all came and beheld the Lord of Raghu, placing their offering before the Lord. They greeted him with regarded him with deep affection. They stood here and there as so many painted figures, thrilling all over, and with tears streaming from their eyes. Sri Rama perceived that they were all overwhelmed with emotions and addressing kind words to them, treated them all with honor, while they in their turn greeted the Lord again and again, and with joint palm spoke to him in the polite terms. Having seen your feet, O Lord, we all feel secure now. Our good luck is responsible for your visit in this place, O Lord of the Ayodhya. Blessed is the land, forest, path, and hill where you have planted your foot, my lord. Fortunate are the birds and the beasts of the forest whose life has been crowned by your side. And lucky are we all, along with our family, in that we have been able to feast our eyes on your beauty. You have chosen an excellent spot whereon to take up your abode. You will be comfortable here during all the seasons. We will render all sort of service to you, keeping away elephants and lions, serpents and the tigers, the dearly forest hills, caves and the ravines have all been explored by us foot by foot, O Lord. We will take you for hunting to the different hunts of games, and we will show you lakes and the springs and other rivers here of water. We have, and our people are your servants. Therefore, do not hesitate to command us, O Lord. The same gracious Lord whose Vedic texts fail to describe and the mind of the hermits cannot reach, listen to the words of the Bhilas, even as a father listens to the words of his children. Love alone attracts shriRama. Let those who are curious take note of it. Shri then gratified all the foresters by addressing to them gentle words, sweetened by love. Dismissed by him, they bowed their head to him and departed. And discussing the virtues of the Lord, they returned to their respective homes. In this way, Sita and the two brothers lived in the forest, delighting the gods and hermits. Even since the Lord of the Raghu came and took up his abode, there the forest became the fountain of blessings. Trees of the various kinds, blossoms, and the bold fruits, and the lovely creepers that coiled about them formed an excellent canopy. They were all naturally beautiful like the trees of the heavens. It seemed as if the latter has abandoned the celestial glow and migrated to the spot. Uh, Spring of the bees made an exceedingly sweet humming sounds, and the delightful breeze breathed soft, cool, and fragrant. The blue jay, cuckoo, parrot, chatkas, chakrokas, chakoras, and other birds delighted the ears and ravished the soul with their varied note. Elephants, lions, monkeys, boars, and deers all sported together, free from enmity. Heart of the deer were enraptured when they beheld the beauty of shriRama roaming about in the search of prey. All the forests of the god existing in the universe were filled with envy at the sight of the shriRama's forest. The heavenly river Ganga, Saraswati, and sun-born Yamuna, Narmada, the daughter of the Mount Mekala, the blessed Godavari, and the various others, lakes, seas, streams, and the rivers all extol the Mandakini, the eastern and the western hill from and behind which the sun is believed to emerge and disappear every morning and evening. Mount Kailasha, the abode of the Lord Shiva, Mandira, Meru, all abode of the gods, and the mountain like the Himalayas, all spring phrases of the Chitrakuta. Glad was the deity presiding over the Vindhya range, whose delighted was more than his heart could contain. To think that he had won such great renown without much exertion. Blessed and full of merit are all the birds and deer, creepers, trees, and the various species of the herbage of the Chitrakoot. So declare the good day, God's day and night. Having beheld the chief of the Raghu line, those who had attained the end of their life and were rid of sorrow, whereas inanimated objects rejoiced at the touch of the very dust of his feet and become eligible to attaining the highest state, blessedness. The forest and the hill where that ocean of the bliss Sri Rama took up his abode were naturally lovely, auspicious, and the holiest of the holy. How could it be possible to glorify them? The exquisite beauty of the forest where Sita, Lakshmana, and Rama came and settled, taking leave of the ocean of the milk and bidding adieu to Ayodhya could not be described even by the 100,000 Sheshas, each with 1,000 pairs of the tongues. How then can I describe it some length any more than a tortoise living in the puddle can lift Mount Mandara? Lakshmana waited upon the Sri Ramas in thought, words, and deed with an amiable and devotion more than one could tell. Gazing on the feet of the Sita and Rama every moment and conscious of their love for him, Lakshmana never recalled, even in a dream, his younger brother Shatrugna, father, mother, or even his home. In Sri Rama's company, Sita lived a happy life, forgetting her town, Ayodhya family, and the home. Even watching the moon-like face of her beloved Lord, she was extremely glad. like the young of the chakra birds. Finding her lord's affection grow from day to day, she remained happy as a chakraka birds during the day. Her mind was so enormous of the shriRama sweet that the forest appeared to her as dear as a thousand Ayodhyas. Dear was the huts of the leaves in the company of her most beloved lord, while fawn and the bird constitutes her beloved family. The holy hermits appear to her as her own father-in-law and their spouse as their mother-in-law, while her diet consisting of bulbs, roots, and fruits tasted like ambrosia. Shared with her spouse, even the lovely litters of leaves delighted her as hundred of the Cupid's own beds. Can the charm of the senses enjoyment even enchant her, whose very look confers the sovereignty of spare? Fixing their thought on the Sri Rama, his devotee sprung the pleasure of the sense as worth no more than a piece of straw. It is no wonder that in the case of Sita, Sri Rama, beloved consort and mother of the universe, the Lord of Raghu would do and say only that which would please Sita and the Lakshmana. The Lord of Raghu would do and say only that which would please Sita and Lakshmana. He would narrate old legends and the story to which Lakshmana and Sita would listen with great delight. Every time Sri Rama's thought of Ayodhya, his eye filled with tears. The gracious Lord became sad when he recalled his father and mother, his family and the brothers, and particularly the affection, amiability, and devotion to the Bharata. But he recovered himself when he realized that the time was unpropitious. Perceiving this, Sita and the Lakshmana felt distressed, even as the shadow of a man behaved just like them. When he saw the condition of his beloved consort and his brother Lakshmana, the self-possessed and compassionate Rama, the delighter of the Raghu and the soother of his devotees' hearts, began to narrate some sacred legends, hearing which Lakshmana and the Sita felt relieved. Accompanied by Lakshmana and the Sita, Sri Rama shone in his huts of leaves, even as Indra, who dwells in the Amravati with his spouse Sachi and his sons Jayanta. The Lord looked after Sita and Lakshmana in the same way as the eyelid protects the eyeball, while Lakshmana in his turn waited upon Sita and the Sri Rama, the hero of the Raghu race, just as a fool who identifies himself with his body taints his own body. In this way, the Lord, who was as friendly to birds and fawn as the gods and ascetics, lived happily in the forest. Thus have I told the delightful story of Sri Rama's journey to the wood. Now Sumantra reached Ayodhya when the Nishada chief returned after escorting the Lord. He saw the minister Sumantra with a carrot. The minister was distressed to see the Nishada chief's words fail to describe the agony which he felt at the moment, crying out Rama, say Rama, Sita, Lakshmana. He Sumantra dropped on the ground utterly helpless, while the horse kept looking on the south and neighed. They were as restless as birds shorn of their wings. They would neither eat grass nor drink water, while their eyes kept shedding tears. The whole party of the Nishada was distressed to see the horse of Sri Rama, the chief of Raghuline. Then recovering himself, the Nishada chief Sumantra ceased sorrowing now. You are the man of wisdom and the knower of the highest truth. Therefore, compose yourself, realizing that fate is unpropitious to you. Narrating various regions in soft accents, he took him by force and seated him in the carriage. But overpowered by the grief, he could not drive the carriage. The agony of the separation from Rama, the chief of Raghuline, were severe in his heart. The horse would not move along the road. They were getting fatiguely. They were getting fatigately. It seems as the white animal has been caught and put in harshness. Fatigately inclined to get restless or uneasy, restless and uneasy, restless, fatigately. It seems as the white animal has been caught and put in put in harness means harness, put in hands. They would topple down and turn to look behind, turn away the Rama and smarting and with the deep anguish. If anyone mentioned the name of Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita, Janka's daughter, they would start name and regard him with love. Now, how could anyone describe the anguish and of the separation the horse felt? They were as restless as a snake robbed of its gems. The Nishada was overcome with grief as he beheld the minister and his horse. He then called four trusted grooms and sent them with the carrot Sumantra. Seeing the carrot Guha returns, the agony of his separation was too deep for the words, and the Nishata drove to the Ayodhya plugged in sorrow every moment. Agitated and stricken with grief, Sumantra lamented, accused his life without the hero of the race. This rash body will not survive in the long run, but what a pity it is. Uh, what a pity it did not earn fame by pursuing at the time of its parting from the hero of Raghu race. The life has become a sink of infamy and sins. I wonder what prevent it from departing us. This wild body, this wild soul has missed its chance. Oh, that my heart does not break in twin even now. Wringing his hand and beating his hands to the he ruled his lot like a miser who has lost his round hoard of riches. It seemed as if after assuming the role of and posing as an eminent hero, a great warrior had taken to flight. The minister gave himself up to a grief like a discreet Brahmana of the noble descent who thought well versed in the Vedas and esteemed by the virtuous has been deluded into drinking. The minister felt in his heart agony as terrible as that of the virtuous and a discreet lady of the high birth, who is devoted to her lord in thoughts, words, and deed, and who is compelled by evil destiny to live apart from her husband. His eyes were full of tears and lacking of vision. His ears deaf, and his mind was agitated and confused. Nay, his lips were getting dry, and his tongue has clave to the palate, yet his live breath did not depart. The term of exile serving as door to prevent its departure from its heart. He had turned pale and repealed the sight as if he had murdered his own father and mother. Great was the despondency which preyed upon his mind. Great was the despondency which preyed upon his mind as a result of low spirit from loss of hope or courage. Low spirit from loss of hope or courage. Low spirit from loss of hope and despondency which preyed upon his mind as a result of his the loss he had just suffered. He looked like a sinner mourning while on his way to the abode of the death. Word fails him and he lamented within himself. What shall I see on reaching Ayodhya? Whoever shall find the carrot devoid of Rama will shun my sight. Shun means what do you mean by the shun means? Persistently avoid, ignore or reject through antipathy or cautions. Persistently avoid, ignore or reject is called shun. Persistently avoid, ignore or reject. Persistently avoid, ignore or reject. Rama was shorn of my eyes. When the agitated citizen need to make inquire of him, I shall answer them all with heavy loads of on my heart. When all the helpless and the afflicted mothers questions me, good God, what shall I say to him? When Lakshmana mother Sumitra puts questions to me, what glad tidings shall I convey to her? And when Rama mothers come running like a cow that he recently born a calf and has her thoughts fixed on it, the only answer it can make to her queries will be Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita, Videha's daughter, have left for the wood. Whoever cautions we must be answered. This is the treat I shall have on reaching Ayodhya. Again, when the king who is oppressed by grief and whose life hang on Rama put caution to me, well, with what face shall I tell him to reply that having safely escorted the princess, I have come back. The moment he hears the news of Lakshmana, Sita, and Rama, the king will drop his body like a piece of straw. The swampy ground of my heart, like a swampy ground, did not crack even though the moisture in the shape of my most beloved Rama has left. The swampy ground of my heart, like swampy ground, did not crack even though the moisture of the shape of the most beloved Rama has left. From this, I concluded that it is very fame. God has endowed me with body fit for suffering the tortures of hell. While Sumantra was thus lamenting on the way, his carrot presently reached the bank of the Tamsa river. He politely dismissed the Nishada, who fell at his feet and returned with a heart stricken with grief. The minister hesitated to enter the city as if he had murdered his own preceptor, killed a Brahman, or butchered a cow. He passed the day sitting under a tree and found his opportunity only when it was dusk. He entered Ayodhya in the dark and slunk into the place, having the carrot at the gate. All who heard the news poured to the entrance of the royal place to see the carrot. When they recognized the carrot and found the horses restless with their body wasting away the hail in the sun, the citizen, both man and the woman, were so distressed as fish when the water runs short. The moment they heard of the minister's arrival, the whole Dainicum was restless. To him, the place looked as dreadily as though it were as abode of spirit. Shriram, Shriram, Shriram. In deep agony, all the queen questioned him, but no reply came from him. His voice failed him. His ears could not hear, nor could his eyes see. He asked whosoever he met, "Tell me, where is the king?" Seeing his confusion, the maidservant conducted him to Kaushalya's apartments. Arriving there, Sumantra found the king as pale, as lustreless as the moon without nectar. Without a seat, couch, or ornaments, he lay on the ground in the most wretched conditions. Having a sight, he lamented even as Yayati when he had fallen from the abode of God, with his heart bursting with grief. Every moment he looked like Sampati who had dropped from the heaven on account of his wings having been signed. The great lover of Rama cried, "Rama, Rama," and again, "Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita." The minister, on seeing the king, exclaimed salutatory words, "Jaya, Jivan," and made obeisance to him by falling protest on the ground. The moment he heard this, the king rose in bewilderment and said, "Tell me, Sumantra, where is Rama?" The king pressed Sumantra to his bosom as if a drowning man had laid hold of some support. Seating his affectionately by his sides, and with his eyes full of tears, the king asked him, "Appraise me, O Rama's welfare, O loving friends. Where are Rama, the lord of the Raghu, Lakshmana, and Vidya's daughter Sita? Have you brought them back, or have they left for the woods?" At these words, tears rushed to the minister's eyes. Overwhelmed with grief, the king asked again, "Tell me the news about Sita, Rama, and Lakshmana." Recalling again and again Sri Rama's beauty, virtue, amiability, and the temperament, the king sorrowed within himself, proclaiming my intentions to install him as regent. I exile him to the woods, but the news neither delighted his soul nor grieved it. But my life did not depart, even though I had to part from such a son. Who can be such a great sinner as I am? Take me, my friend, to the place where Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana are. It not, I sincerely tell you, my life is going to depart very soon. Again and again, King asked the minister, "Communicate to me the news of my most beloved sons. Quickly contrive, my friend, some means whereby you may be able to bring before my eyes Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita." Recovering himself, the minister gently replied, "Your Majesty is learned and wise. Your Majesty is learned and wise. Nay, you are a lender of the brave and the courageous. You are a lender of the brave and courageous, lender of the brave and courageous, my lord, and have always attended assemblies of the holy men." Lender means a person who leads a command, a group, organization, or a country. Leader, who was a leader. You are a leader of the who was a leader of brave and courageous, my lord, and have always attended assemblies of the holy men, birth and death, all painful and the pleasurable experiences, loss and gain, union and separations from friends. All these, my lord, take place under the unalterable laws of times and destiny, like the succession of night and day. Fools rejoice to prosperity and mourn in adversity. Fools rejoice in prosperity and mourn in adversity. Fools rejoice in prosperity and mourn in adversity. But that and painful pressure were experienced, loss in gain, union with the separation from friends, all these, my lord, take place under the unalterable law of time and destiny, like the succession of the night and day. Fool rejoice in prosperity and mourn in adversity, while the wise account both alike. Therefore, exercising your mature judgment, take up courage and ceased sorrowing of friends of all. Their first halt was made by the sides of the Tamsa and the next on the banks of the celestial river Ganga. Having bathed and drunk water, Sita and the two brothers remained without food that day. The Nishada showed great hospitality and the party spent that night in the village of Singarpura. At daybreak they sent for the milk of the banyan tree and the two brothers coiled up their matted hair in the shape of the crown. The Rama friend Guha called for a boat and after helping Sita to board it, Sri Rama followed suit. uh, Lakshmana placed on it in the orderly way the two bows and the quiver and himself boarded the boat on receiving the Lord's command. Seeing my distress, the hero of Raghuresh summoned up courage and addressed me in the sweet accents. Sire, convey my obeisance to dear father and clasp his lotus feet again and again. Then falling at his feet, submit to him thus, Father, be not worried on my account. By your grace and goodwill, and as a reward of your meritorious acts, my journey to and subjourn in the woods will be happy and full of blessings. By your grace, dear Father, I shall have all sort of comforts on my journey, and having obeyed your command, shall come back safe to behold your lotus feet once more. All sort of comforts on my journey, and having nay, consoling all my mothers fall at their feet again and again, and with profuse entreaties make every effort, says to Siras to see that the Lord of Ayodhya may Father pass his days happily. Class my preceptor's lotus feet again and again, give him my message. Pray, so exhort the Lord of Ayodhya that he may not longer grieve on my account. Humbly approaching all the citizens and all my people, convey to them my submission. He alone is my friend in every way, who ensure the king's happiness again. When Bharata come, give him my message. Abandon not the path of restitude on assuming the office of regents. Cherish your subjects in thought, words, and deed, and serve your mothers, treating them all alike. Again, brother, vindicate your brotherliness till the last day by serving our parents and kinsmen. And last but not least, look at the king in such a way that he may never sorrow on my account. Here Lakshmana interposed some harsh word, but Rama checked him and then entreated me, enjoined me by himself again and again. Make no mention, dear father, of Lakshmana's childishness. Sending her greetings, Sita opened her lips to say something but was overwhelmed with emotion. Her voice failed, her eyes filled with tears, and thrill ran through her body. At this moment, in response to the hint from the chief of Raghushi Rama, the boatsman propelled the boat towards the opposite bank, so depart the crown of the Raghu race. While I stood looking on with a heavy load on my heart, how am I to describe my own anguish in that I came back alive, bearing Rama's messengers? At this stage, Sumantra's speech failed him, overpowered as he was by grief and remorse due to the separation from Sri Rama. No sooner had he heard the Carrot's speech than the king dropped on the ground, his heart burning with deep anguish, his mind being unhinged by excessive infatuation. He tossed about like a fish that has been inebriated by suckling in the form of early raining water. By suckling the form of the early raining water inhibited has been inhibited means inhibited by the suckling of the form of the early rainy water. Inhibited means drunk, intoxicated, inhibited means drunk or intoxicated by suckling the form of the early rainy water, which is intoxicated to the fish. All the queens wail and wept. How can their great misfortune be described? At the sound of their wails, sorrow itself was sorrowful, and endurance could no longer endure. Endurance could no longer endurance. Endurance means the ability to endure an unpleasant or difficult process or situation without giving way. The ability to endure an unpleasant or difficult process or situation without giving away. the capacity of something to least or the withstand wear and tear could no longer endure. Ayodhya was in great turbulent. Turbulent means the loud, confused noise, especially caused by large mass of turbulent or at the sound of the outcry of the royal Gynecum. At the sound of the sound of the outcry means outcry of the royal Gynecum. It seemed as if a cruel thunderbolt has fallen at night on the large habitants of the birds. Outcry means the exclamation or shout, the strong expression of public disapproval or anger. The life breath of the king had now stuck on his throat. He felt uneasy like a serpent robbed of its gems. All his senses were there, blighted as a cluster of the lotus in the lake that had been left without water. When Kaushalya saw the king withered and blasted, she concluded in her mind that the sun of the solar race was about to set. Summoning up courage, therefore, Sri Rama's mother spoke words appropriate to the occasion. Ponder in your heart, my lord, and reflect that separation from Rama is a vast ocean. You are the helmsman and the Ayodhya, the bark which has been boarded by our near and dear ones of its passengers. We can hope to reach shore only if you have patience. If not, the whole family will drown. If you take to heart this entity of mine, my beloved Lord, we are sure to see Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita again. Hearing these soft words of his beloved queen, the king opened his eyes and looked upon up like a glistening red fish that has been sprinkled with cold water. Recovering himself, the king got up and sat down. Tell me, Sumanta, where is my gracious Rama? Where is the Lakshmana and where my loving Rama? Where is my beloved daughter-in-law Videhi? The restless monarch wailed in many ways. The night seemed to him like a age, and he felt as though it would never end. He was reminded of the blind hermit curse and narrated the whole story of Kaushalya. He was filled with agony as he related the circumstances. Fires on the hopes of the surviving without Rama. What shall I gain by preserving this body, which he failed to keep my vow of love? O delighter of the Raghu, who are dear to me as life. Already I have lived too long without you. Janka's daughter and Lakshmana, our chief of Raghuline, who gladdened the loving heart of your father as a rain cloud delights the chatka birds, crying Rama, Rama, and again Rama, and yet again Rama, Rama, Rama. The king cast off his body in his agony of separation from the chief of Raghuline and ascends to the abode of God. It was King Dashatha who reaped the reward both of his life and death. His, his, his untarnished fame spread throughout the number of universe. As long as he lived in the gaze of the Sri Rama's moonlight countenance and brought glory to his death by making the separation from Sri Rama his excuse for it. Stricken with grief, all the queens wept and praised his comeliness of the form. It was the king who reaped the for reward both life and death. Rama and Rama again, and yet Rama, the king cast off his body, agony of the separations from chief of Raghuline and ascend the abode of the god. It was the king Dashatha who reaped the reward both of his life and death. His untarnished fame spread throughout a number of universes. As long as he lived, he gazed on Sri Rama's moonlike countenance and brought glory of his death by making the separation from the Sri Rama his excuse for it. Stricken with grief, all the queens wept and praised his comeliness of the form, amiable manner, bodily might and majesty. They lamented in variety of ways, throwing themselves upon the ground again and again. Men servants and the maid servant alike wailed in anguish, and there were weeping in every house throughout the day. Today has set the sun of the solar rays, the perfection of the rightness, repository of the beauty and virtue. Everyone abuses Kake, who had robbed the world of its very eyes. In this way, they waited till the close of the night, when all the great and the enlightened hermits arrived. Then the sage Vashishta narrated a number of legends befitting the occasion, and they pressed the glooms. They hung over them all by the light of the wisdom. The Sheikh caused a boat to be filled with oil and had the king's body placed in it to guard against decomposition. He then summoned envoys and spoke to them thus: "Run quickly and go to bazaars, but break not the news about the king of anyone at any place." Approaching Bharata, tell him only this much: "The preceptor has sent for you two brothers." Hearing the Sheikh's words, orders the couriers rush along with a speed that would put an excellent street to shame. Even since things begin to take vicious turns in Ayodhya, evil omens occurs before Bharata. He saw fearful dreams at night and the walking intervals in all sort of unpleasant situations. He would perform consecration water over Bhagwan Shiva in various ways, and invoking the great Lord in his heart, begged of him the welfare of his parents, family, and the half brothers. The action of making declaring something typically church sacred consecrations. The action of declaring bread and wine to be present in the world. shriRam, shriRam, shriRam. While Bharata was thus passing an anxious times, the courier arrived, and hearing the Guru's commands, he proceeded with an invocation of the Lord Ganesha. Urging the horse to run as fast as the wind, he went on his journey, crossing difficult streams and the forest. There was such a great anxiety in his heart that nothing would please him. He thought to himself, "Would take I could fly home. Would that I could fly home." Every moment hung heavy like a year. In this way, Bharata drew near to the city. Evil omens occurred to him as he entered the city. Crows caught in an ominous way at the undesirable place. Duncan Jekyll gave a cry that the foreboded evils, and with pierced Bhartas to the heart as he listened to it. Lakes and rivers, groves and gardens had lost their charms, while the city wore a particularly dismal look. Birds and the fawn, horses and the elephants were too rash to look at. Undone by the fell disease of the separation from the Rama, the people of the city, both men and the women, were extremely miserable, as though all of them had lost everything they had in their possession. The citizens made him, but spoke not a word. They made obeisance and quietly passed on. Bharata too could not inquire after their welfare, his mind being obsessed with fear and grief. The bazaars and the streets repeat the sight as through a wild conflagration has broken conflagration. Wild conflagration means extensive fire which destroy a great deal of land or property. Extensive fire which destroy a great deal of land or property. Conflagration had broken out in the city, all the sides. Kekai, who was to the solar rays what the moon is to the lotus, was rejoiced to hear of her son's approach. Preparing light for the waving around his head, she sprang up and ran glad at heart, and meeting him at the very door, conducted him into her apartments. Bharata saw with wonder that while the household were a wretched appearance, like a bed of lotuses glassed by forest, Keke was in a happy as a Bhila woman who had set a whole forest blessed. Seeing her son's melancholy and the depressed in speech, she asked him, "Melancholy." Seeing her son melancholy, melancholy means melancholy. A feeling of previous sadness, typically no obvious cause. She asked, "Is all well? Is mother's house?" Bharta assured her that everything was well, and then inquired after the health and welfare of his own family. "Tell me, where is my father, and where our mother, and where is the Sita and my beloved brother, Sri Rama and Lakshmana?" On hearing her son's affectionate words, the sinful woman brought crocodile tears to her eyes and spoke words that pierced the ears and soul as so many shafts. "I have accomplished everything for you, my son. A poor mantra has been of great help to me. Only God has merited our plans as little before they could be completed. The king has departed to the Indra's paradise. Only God has merited our plan a little before merited. Merited means impaired quality appearance is spoiled. God has spoiled our appearance or spoiled our plan a little before they could be completed. God has narrated our plan as little before they would be completed. The king has departed to Indra's paradise. Before only God has narrated our plan a little before they could be completed. The king has departed to the Indra's paradise. As soon as he heard his Bhartas was overcome with grief as an elephant who is terrified to the overcome with grief as an overcome with the crying, Father, Father, my father. He fell to the ground much agitated, but could not see you before you left, nor did you, my father, entrust me to the care of the shriRama. Then collecting himself, he got up with some efforts and said, Tell me, mother, the cause of my father's dismiss. Hearing the words of her son, she replied as one who had cut a vital part of the inserted poison into the edge, cut a vital part and inserted poison into it. With a glad heart, the cruel and the wicked woman recounted from the very beginning all that she had done. Hearing of Sri Rama's exiles into the forest, Bhartas forget his father's death and realizing in his heart that he was at the root of the remained mute and the stupefied. Uh, Over observing his son's distress, she comforted him like one who applied salt to a burn. The king, my son, is not fit for lamentation. He not only reaped a rich harvest of the merits and renown, but enjoyed life also. During his lifetime, he obtained all the rewards of the human existence, and in the end of the ascents to the abode of Indra, the lord of immortals, wandering thus ceased sorrowing and ruled the kingdom with all its limbs, such as of the army, the exchequer, the minister, as from the army, the exchequers. Observing the sun's distress comforted him like the applied salt to a burn. The king, my son, is not fit for the not fit for the laminations. He not only reaped a rich harvest of merit and renown, but enjoyed life also. Lamination, a passionate expression of grief. During his lifetime, he obtained all the rewards of the human existence and the end ascends to the abode of the inner lord of immortals, wandering thus cease sorrowing and rule the kingdom with all its limbs, such as the army, all its all its limbs, army, all its limbs. Exchequers means exchequers, a super trendy of exchequer. Exchequers means the minister as so on army, the exchequer, the royal and national treasury. The royal and national treasuries are the exchequers. The royal and national treasury is called the exchequers. The royal and national treasury is called the exchequers. The royal and national treasury called the exchequers. The royal and national treasury is called the exchequers. The royal and exchequers. The lord royal and the exchequers. Royal and national treasury is called 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 the Exchequers, such as Army, the Exchequers, the Minister, and so on. Ministers and so on. Ministers, Exchequers, the Minister, a head of the government department, and so on. The prince was utterly dismissed to hear these words, as though the feasting soul had been touched by the live coal. Festering sword, feastering. Uh, the prince was suddenly dismissed to hear these words through a feastering means forming pus forming pus. Feasting soul has been touched by the live coal. Feasting soul has been touched by the recovering himself. He heaved a deep sigh and said, "Oh, weak woman, you have brought complete ruin to our family. If you bore such deep malice, why did you not kill me as soon as I was born? Cutting down the tree, you have watered a leaf, and you have drained the pond for keeping the fish alive. Oh, weak woman, weak. Oh, weak woman, weak. Wig means what do you mean by wig? Wig means you have brought complete ruin to our family. Wig means wig means
morally wrong and bad, morally wrong and bad, slightly moral, but in an attractive way, solidly wicked, attractive way, keeping fish alive, claiming my descent from the sun god with King Dasharatha for my father and Rama and Lakshmana for my mother. I have had you, mother, for my mother. One is the powerless against providence, claiming my descent into the sun god descent, claiming with my the Shatha, King the Shatha for my father and Rama and Lakshmana for my mother. I have had you, mother, for my mother. One is the powerless against providence. One is powerless against providence. Powerless against providence. One is powerless against providence. One is powerless against providence. One is powerless without ability, influence, or powerless against providence. The moment, O malicious woman, you contrived the evil design in your mind, how is it your heart did not break into the pieces while asking for the boon? Did not you conscience pinch you, shriram, shriram? Your tongue did faster, nor did your mouth become free of maggot. Become free from the your tongue did faster, nor did your mouth free from maggot. Maggot means a soft-bodied glassy larva of the fly or other insect. Become free of maggot. How did the king trust you? Surely God must have robbed him in of his sense on the evening of his death. Even the Creator has not been able to know the working of the woman's hearts, the repository of all deceit, sins, and the wise, simple, amiable, and the pious as king was. How could he know the nature of the woman? What living creature is there in this in the world to whom the Lord of Raghu is not dear as life itself? Yet even the Rama appeared to you as a great enemy. Tell me the truth. Therefore, to what species do you belong? Whatever you may be, you had better bat up your face with things and leaving my presence, remove to some place out of my sight. The God has created me out of the womb, Kakai, hostile to Rama, who is there, so sinful as myself. In vain, therefore, do I taunt you. When Shatrugna heard of the mother Kaikeyi wickedness, he burns all over with rage, but there was no help. That very moment come to the hung-back mantra, clad in the variety of the rich costumes and adorned with the various ornaments. The very sight of that woman filled Lakshmana's younger brother, and the anger as though clarified butter has been poured into the fire. Springing towards he kicked her with her such steady aim at the hump that she fell flat on her face and screamed aloud. Her hump was smashed and her head split and her teeth broke and her mouth emitted blood. Oh my God, what harm have I done? Surely this is an ill recompense of my service. Ill recompense of my service. Hearing this and seeing her vile from head to foot, recompense of my service, make amiable a loss of harm suffered, compensate. Hearing this and seeing her vile form head to foot, Shatrugna, the slayer of the foot, seized her by the hair on her head and began to drag her till the merciful Bharata recused her. The two brothers then called on the mother Kaushalya in sordid attire, sword and pale, agitated and approached with woe. Sordid mean involving immoral or dishonorable action and motive, dirty and squared in sordid attire, pale, agitated, and oppressed with woe, and with a wasted frame, she looked like a lovely celestial creeper of the gold blasted by frost of the forest. When Mother Kaushalya saw Bharata, she sprang up and ran to meet him, but she felt giddy and dropped unconscious on the ground. Bharata was deeply moved to see her plight and threw himself at her feet, forgetting the condition of his own body. Mother, show me my father. Where is Sita and the two brothers Sri Rama and Lakshmana? Why was Kaikeyi born into the world at all? And if born, why did she not remain barren instead of bearing me a blot of my family, a very sink of the infamy, and an enemy of near and the dear ones, who is in the three spheres so wretched as I, on whose accounts, mothers, you have been reduced to such a plight. My father is
heaven, and shriRama, the chief of Raghuline, is a wood. It is I who, like a shooting stars, am responsible for the whole trouble. Woe be to me, who have proved to be for my family a very fire among the bamboo, and a victim of terrible agony, suffering, and censure. Censure. Censure means censure. Censure. Censure means on hearing Bharta's words, censure means express severe disapproval. Express severe, especially in a formal statement, severe disapproval, suffering and censure, terrible agony, suffering and censure. On hearing Bharta's tender word, Kaushalya rose with renewed efforts and lifting him, clasped him to her bosom, while tears streamed from her eyes. Clueless by nature, Mother Kaushalya pressed him into bosom and utmost affection as though Sri Rama himself had become back. She then embraced Lakshmana's younger brother Shatrughna. Her heart was full of grief and love. Everyone who saw her loving disposition said, Rama's mother, that she is no wonder she should be so loving. The mother seated Bharta in her lap and wiping away his tears spoke to him in soothing words. I adjure you, my child, to compose yourself even now knowing this to be an unpropitious time, sorrow no more. Take not to heart the loss we have sustained and feel no remorse for it, remembering that the course of the time and fate is unalterable. Do not blame anyone, my son. It is a providence that has turned hostile to me in every way. And when we makes me survive even under such trying circumstances, who knows what may be a pleasure with regard to me even now. At this father's behest, dear child, the hero of the Rahu line, descended his ornaments and princely appearance and put on the hermit dress consisting of bark of the tree without either sorrow or exclusions. With a cheerful countenance and without either joy and anger, we comforted all in every way and proceeded to the forest. Hearing the Sitas followed him and would not say devoted to she was to Rama's feet. Lakshmana also, when he heard this, sprang up and accompanied them. He would not be left behind, even though the Lord of Raghu tried his best to detain him. The Lord of Raghu then bowed his head to all and departed with Sita and his younger brother Lakshmana. So Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita left for the woods, where I neither accompanied them nor seat my soul after them, leaving my body here. All this happened before these eyes, and yet his rash soul did not take leave of the body. I am not ashamed of my love to think that a son like Rama should have a mother like me. The king knew well how to live and how to die, whereas my heart is 100 times harder than adamant. Hearing Kaushalya's word, Bharata and the whole Ganekam weighed in distress. The king place seems the very abode of sorrow. Much agitated, the two brothers Bharta and the Shatrugna loudly lamented, and Kaushalya clasped them to her bosom. She comforted Bharta in many ways and tendered words of the wisdom to him. Bharta too, in his turn, consoled all his mothers, narrating legends from the Puranas and Vedas. Joining both his palms, he addressed them in clueless, innocent, simple, and the charming words. The sin attaching to the murder of one's mother, father, or son, and to act of setting fire to the cow pen of the village of the Brahmins and those incurred by slaying a woman or child and by administering poison to a friend or a menage, in all the major and minor sins of thoughts, words, or deed that have been enumerated by the seers, let all such sins be mine. If my mother, this plot has my concurrence. May Providence award me the fate of those who, forsaking the feet of Shri Hari and Lord Shiva, worship frightful ghosts. If mother, I have complicity in this plot. Hey mother, all this has my approval. Let me share the terrible fate of those who sell the Vedas, exploit their piety, are given to backbiting and expose other sins, who are deceitful, wicked, quarrelsome, and irascible, who are reviled in the Vedas and are hostile to the world, no, who are greedy and the lecherous, and have irascibly having or showing tendency to easily angered, irascibly having or showing tendency easily lecherous, and who are greedy and lecherous and behave in rapacious do and as a rapacious do, and who cast his eyes on others' wives and other wives. Name mother rapacious means aggressively greedy and grasping. Nay, mother, it is even new the secret. May Lord Shiva allot me the fate of those wretches who love not the company of the virtuous, who have rejected the path leading to God realization, who worship not Shri Hari even though blessed with a human form, and take no delight in the glory of Shri Rama and Lord Shiva, who have abandoned the path of Vedas and followed the contrary way, and who are impostors and deceive the world by assuming false appearance. Hearing Bharta's truthful, artless, and the sincere words, Mother Kaushalya said, "You, my dear child, have always been beloved Rama in thoughts, words, and deed. Rama is dearer to you than your own life, and likewise you are dearer to the Lord of Raghu than his own brother. The moon may diffuse poisons through her rays, and snow emits fire. Nay, and aquatic creatures may shun water, and spiritual enlightenments may fail to eradicate error. But in no case will you turn hostile to Rama. Those in this verse who allege this plot was contrived with your convenience shall never attain happiness or salvation even in a dream." So saying, Mother Kaushalya clasped Bharta to her bosoms. Milk began to flow from their breast, and her eyes filled with tears. In this way they squared away the whole night, laminating in profusions. The sage Vamadeva and the Vashishta then came and summoned all the ministers and the elite of the city. Vashishta admonished Bharta in many ways, speaking to him words of wisdom appropriate to the occasion. Have courage in your heart, dear son, and do what the occasion demands today. Hearing this Perceptor's commands, Bharta rose and asked everything to be got ready. He had the king's body washed in accordance with the Vedic rites and causes a most splendid funeral bier to be prepared for him. Clasping the feet of the mothers, Bharta prevented them from ascending the funeral pyre. They all stayed behind in the hope of the seeing Sri Rama. Their arrival made lords of the sandalwoods and aloes and divers other excellent aromatic herbs of the untold variety. The pyre was raised to an artistic way on the bank of the Saryu River and looked like a lovely ladder reaching to the heaven. In this way, all the rites of the ceremonies were gone through, and then the funeral party bathed with due ceremony and offered a handful of the water and sesame seed to the departed soul. After asserting the views of the Smriti text, the Vedas, and the Puranas, Bharta performed the ceremony of the Sagrata. Whatever orders the great sage Vashishta gave on a particular point, Bharata carried out all of them in thousand ways. He bestowed all sorts of gifts on attaining purity. He gave away cows, horses, and elephants, and conveyed of various sorts, and even so thrown ornaments and costume, food grain, land, money, and the houses and the Brahmas had all their desires fulfilled on receiving them. Whatever rites Bharata performed for the benefit of his father, in other words, were more than 100,000 tons could recount. Then, after determining an auspicious duty, the great sage Vashishta came and summoned all the ministers as well as the entire elite of the city. They all repaired to the council chamber and sat there. The two brothers Bharata and Shatrugna were also sent for Vashishta, seated Bharata by his side and spoke to him words full of wisdom and piety. First of all, the great sage repeated the whole story of Kathy's Willie doing and paid his tribute to the vow of piety and truthfulness of the king Dasharatha, who remained true to his love even at the cost of his life. Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram. Shaman Shri Ram, 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 Shri Ram First of all, the great Sikh repeated the whole story of Pati. Willie doing a paid his tribute to the vow of piety and truthfulness of the King Dishra, who remained true to his love in the cost of his life. And as the great hermit spoke to shriRama's virtue, amiability, and the kind dispositions, tear came to his eyes and still rained through her body. Again, when he extolled the affection that Lakshmana and Sita bore towards Rama, the enlightened sage was overwhelmed with grief and emotion. Listen, Bharata, formidable is the fate. The Lord of the Sikhs sorrowfully exclaimed, loss and gain, life and death, glory and fame, all these lies in the hands of the Providence. Arguing thus, whom should we blame and with whom should we be angry without any cause? Corner in your heart, my son, and King Dashrath is no worth grieving for. Pitiable is the Brahman who is ignorant of the Vedas and who has abandoned his own duty and is engrossed the pleasure of the sense. Pitiable is who has no knowledge of polity and who does not love his people on his own life. Pitiable is the Vaishya member of the trading class who is negating through riches, negating so riches, who is not perfect in hospitality nor in devotion to the Lord Shiva. Pitiable is the Shudra, a member of the laboring class. Niggardly means ungenerous with money, ungenerous with money, ungenerous with money, ungenerous with greatly. Pitiable is the Shudra who is disrespectful toward the Brahmins, loquacious and the proud of knowledge and love to be honored. Pitiable again is the woman who deceives her husband, instruct and coerce him and follow her own will. Pitiable is the religious student who break his vow and obey not the order of his preceptor. Nay, pitiable is the householder who, out of ignorance, forsake the path of duty, and pitiable the recluse who, attach to the words and lack discretion and discretion. Pitiable the android who has given an appearance and developed a liking of the luxuries. Pitiable at the backbiter who is angry without cause and the enemy of his own parents, preceptor, and brother. Pitiable is every way is he who harms others, cherishes his own body, and exceedingly heartless. And pitiable is every respect is he who is not sincerely devoted to Shiva. The Lord of Costa is not worth grieving for us. His glory being manifested throughout all the 40 districts. There never was, nor shall be, therefore, a monarch like your father Bharata, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and Indra, the Lord of creation and guardian of water, all sing praises of the King Dashatha. Tell me, dear child, who can glorify him who begot such five sons as Rama, Lakshmana, Shatrugna, and yourself? The king was blessed in every way. It is no use mourning for him, hearing and realizing this sorrow no more, and reverently obey the king's command. The king has bestowed the kingships on you. He bestow you, therefore, to redeem the words of your father, who abandoned Rama for the sake of his word and quitted his body in his anguish of separation from Rama. The king did not love his own life, and he did his words. Therefore, dear son, redeem your father's words. Reverently obey the king's commands. This will do you good in every way. Parshurama executed the command of his father and killed his own mother. The whole world will bear testimony for to this fact. Yayati son exchanged his own youth for his old age as his father, and incurred no sin or blame because he did so in obedience to his father's command. Those who cherish their father's words, minding not whether it is reasonable or otherwise, attain happiness and fair renown, and dwell in the abode of the inner Lord of the immortals. Therefore, you need must redeem the king's words, cherish your subjects, and cease to grief. The king in heaven will derive solace, while you will earn merits and a good fame, and shall incur no blame. It is well known in the Vedas and has the sanctions of all that the crown goes to him on whom the Father bestowed it. Therefore, rule the kingdom, feel no remorse, and accept my advice as salutary. Rama and the Vidhas of Sita will be gratified when they hear of it, and no wise man will call it wrong. Kaushalya and all the other mothers too will be happy in the happiness of the people. Nay, he who will now we will know the supreme affinity between you and Rama will have perfect goodwill towards you. When Rama returns home, you may hand over the kingdom to him and serve him with ideal affection. The minister submitted with joint palm. You need must obey the order of your preceptor. When the Lord of Prabhu come back, you may do what you think fit them. Summoning courage, Kaushalya said, "Celebrity, my son, is your Guru's commands. The same should be respected and obeyed by your conductor for your good. Cease to grieve, realizing vicissitudes of the life." Sri Ramayana. The Lord of Raghu is in the forest and the king is in the heaven, the word of the God. But you, my son, are thus giving way to the faint-hearted. You, my child, are the only support of the, including your family, subjects, minister, and all your mothers, perceiving the antipathy of the gods and the relentless of the fate. I adjure you by my life